Hello fellow 3D enthusiast, my name is Ian, and today I'm going to be sharing with you how I created a waterfall like this. Now today I'm just going to be going over the top part, this water coming down and some of this mist particle stuff coming up, and then on Wednesday I'll be doing a video on how you can get these ripples in the water and some particles going on and getting it to react with the environment around it. Let's hop into this scene here. And I've just sort of set up a kind of low-res dummy scene that we can actually do some work in. So in this scene, I've got my water and I've got my heads and I got this kind of cliff thing that the water is going to come off of. So let's just go ahead and get into it. I'm going to start by importing images as planes. A few weeks back, I did a tutorial on how to get some really nice cloud textures, which we're just going to be using as water for the moment. And if we import that as a plane, we can take a look at what's going on from the top here, rotate that, and just scale it up roughly to get something like this. So once we import our plane, I'm just going to kind of grab that and line it up a little bit with the little notch we have here in the rocks, and something like that'll do. I'm in the shading tab, and I'm just going to do a little bit of material editing just to keep things a little bit clean. I'm going to hold Control and right click drag through these two connections here, and I'm going to go Shift A and shader, and I'm going to add in a transparent shader. And if you have the Node Wrangler add-on enabled, you can go, let's see, Control Shift and then right click and drag over these two shaders, and that will just mix them together. And then I'm going to take my texture input into this factor. And that pretty much has the same effect, but now we can have a little bit more control. I'm going to go Shift A, Converter Color Ramp, and just drag up these white values a tiny bit so we can see it a little better. You may notice that you have different looking shadows than this. And to fix that, what we're going to do is just go into shadow mode. And by default, it's set to opaque, so we're just going to change that to alpha hashed. And we'll get some nice little shadows there. It's not a huge deal, just having a little bit of something kind of helps. So at this point, I'm just going to keep on kind of positioning my waterfall while I procrastinate. And once I get it kind of lined up well, just going to hop into edit mode and then grab that and extrude downwards. So with this extruded down here, I'm just kind of going to position that a little bit better here and scale that up so it kind of looks like it's spreading out as it's falling down. And I'm just going to go into X-ray here and kind of grab this part, move that back here. There we go. And that can kind of scale down a little bit. Alright, so with this all selected, let's just hit U real quick and make sure that it's unwrapped. I'm going to go over to my UV editing, and you can see this is a little bit messed up at the moment. So I'm just going to go into this selection mode. I think it's like Edge Select, and select these top two ones. And I'm just going to flatten those on the Y-axis, so SY0. And grab that up here. Cool. SY0. Nice. Okay, so if we look at rendered view, our texture is kind of stretching over this whole object here. And then we can Alt-Shift select this middle edge, and then just go Control-B, and that will get a nice bevel going on. And you've got the little operator down here. You can check that and make sure it looks good. This is a little bit funky looking, so I'm going to grab this and move it back on the Y a little bit, and then bevel it again. There we go, that's a little better looking. Okay, so at this point, if we go into solid shading and take a look, you can see it's a little bumpy there, so I'm just going to go Shade Smooth. And I'm also going to go just back into the shading tab so we can be a little bit more comfortable here. And also in edit mode, I'm going to go Control R and add in a loop cut here and just take this and move it out a little bit so that it's kind of beveled. And while we're in edit mode, we might as well just grab this bottom one and just move it down all the way so it goes way into the water. And that's looking pretty good. A lot of this part is just kind of fiddling around to get it lined up right. So with our cloud texture here, what we can do if we have Node Wrangler enabled is go Control T. Here we have a nice mapping node. What I'm going to do is hold my mouse over the X field here and hit I, and that will add in a keyframe. And if we split this window here and open up a graph editor, we can go, you can see the shader node tree here, and then default X value. With this, what we're going to do is hit N, and that'll just pop up this panel. modifiers, generator, and I'm going to make this angle go downwards a little bit here. So I'm going to take this to a negative number, and probably something like a negative 0.05 will do. And we can look at the animation later and just see how fast that's going and how realistic that looks. But at the moment, when we kind of scroll through it, you can see it goes down, which is great, but then it just kind of disappears. And if we change this from clip to repeat, then you can see there's another segment coming up here, and that'll go down as well. And when we scrub through this, it kind of looks like it's like there's a sluice gate or something that's chopping it on and off. And so the way we're going to fix this is we're just going to go into edit mode once more, select all with A, Shift D, duplicate, and Alt S, which will kind of shrink it up and scale it on its normals. So I'm just going to make that a little bit farther away so we get kind of another layer of water going down. It doesn't have to be too far off from the original, so that's good. And with this, what I'm going to do is go back into UV editing and just grab everything with A, and let's see, yeah, grab and move it on the X just to be kind of at a halfway point. So you can see the little on and off bits were just this edge part of the texture where it was fading away. And if we grab another and layer it on top, this one will be nice looking while the other is not nice looking, and then the other will be nice looking when this one is not nice looking. So it kind of blends together and works together pretty well. Okay, so that's the first two layers. If you want, you can select one of these bottom ones with L and hide with H. And I'm just going to add in a few loop cuts down here and a few on these axes. Gotta wait till we've unwrapped it to do that, or else it gets real messy. But now that we have, we can just grab one of these, and if we have proportional editing enabled, we can set that to, it can be like a smooth proportional editing, which gets kind of nice big lumps, or we could set it to be random, which can be kind of crazy, because when water ends up kind of falling a long ways, it ends up getting kind of crazy towards the bottom, I think. I don't know. I don't really study waterfalls that much. But once you do that, you can Alt-H and unhide the other side. And then you just get a little bit of randomness at the bottom, which kind of looks nice. So we've got this little bit here, and this is actually looking pretty good at the moment. Once again, if you see something that you beveled and you don't really like that much, you can just use proportional editing and just grab and just kind of shape that to be looking a little bit better. I'm just going to leave it here now, no more edits. So next, what I'm going to do real quick is just take this color ramp and crank it up a tiny bit more so it looks like it's a little bit thicker. And then for our next layer, what we're going to do is add some kind of steam, smoke, mist particles. And I'm just going to import images as plain once more, and look in here, I believe I have it. And this is an image sequence of a smoke simulation that I did a while ago. I have a tutorial on that if you'd like to see how you can do that. And I'm just going to grab the first image of the sequence here and import image as plain. And you can see that is right there, so that's cool. If we scale that up, we can take a better look at it. All right, so I'm going to take this texture and once again just cut through these real quick and just duplicate the steps that I did for the last shader. Get it transparent and merge those together. Cool. And our texture is once again going to mix those together. And if you haven't already, set this texture to be an image sequence and set the frames to be as long as your image sequence. If we grab a color ramp and drop that in there, we can start to get a little bit of contrast going on. If we could actually see it. There we go. Nice. Okay. So when we plug that in and just crank up the white values, we can actually start to see our smoke mist stuff pretty easily. So now with this, I'm just going to duplicate it and bring it down to the bottom real quick, and we can save that for later. And with this, I'm just going to replicate what we did with the other ones. So get something kind of similar to that. And it's just going to start right up at the top here. And let's scale that a little bit. What we can do is go into edit mode and just kind of, yeah, do what we did before. E, Z. And this layer we probably want to go over top of the other one. Since it's in its gas form, it's probably quite a bit lighter than the actual water that's fluid still. And I'm just going to take this back end and extrude it backwards. Yeah, there we go. Cool. So I think this layer at the moment is a little bit messed up with the UVs, so I'm going to hop back over into UV editing, go U, unwrap, and just do the same thing I did before. So I'm using Alt and Shift to select this whole edge, and S, Y, 0 to flatten it out. Just doing that with both edges. There we go. And also it's not really rotated correctly at the moment, so that's probably gonna be important. Yeah, that's super messed up right there. So I'm gonna grab that and rotate it by 180, make sure it's all flipped around correctly. And if we just kind of scale this out here, that should end up looking pretty good. Nice. Okay. So we've got this smoke element up here, and it kind of goes down to the bottom there. And if we grab this and turn on O for proportional editing, scale that down with the mouse wheel, we can kind of just grab and move the other ones as well. And also, if you want, since our 2D cursor is down here, I'm just moving that with Shift and right click. You can go period and 2D cursor, and this will scale it around that. So I'm just going to scale it like this a little bit, and it's starting to look a little better here. If we select this and go Control B, that'll bevel it out and smooth it nicely. And I think I'd just like to kind of move this down. There, so that our source is a little bit more visible. Now if I go slash on the number pad, I was just in local view, just so you're aware. We can see this going a little bit better. I'm just going to grab this bottom part of the mist and move it down to be on the water level there. Nice. Alright. And with this, if we want to smooth it out a little bit more, we can add in some edge loops. Add in some more. Control R, by the way. And I'm just going to kind of round this out a little bit. Grab those two edges and move them back. Okay, so this is pretty much what we did on the other layer, except it is an animated texture. And once again, let's shade smooth that real quick. Hop back into the shading editor. Okay, we are almost done here. Let's just do this last bottom part. And what this is kind of a reaction to what's going on down here. When you got lots of water pouring down like that, there's going to be some kind of mist stuff coming up from the bottom. So I'm going to grab this plane that we duplicated before and rotate it on the x-axis by 90 degrees. And I'm just going to grab this guy and move it over here to the bottom so that it's a little bit farther out. And just grab that. I'm going to hide this for a second because it's in the way. And with this, if we go into edit mode and scale it on the X, that'll kind of widen out a little bit. We can drop a edge loop, Control R there. And just select these two and move it back a little bit so it's curved once more. And I'm just going to bevel this a little bit here. Select all with A, scale on the Y, just so it gets a little bit more beveled and curved. And now, if you want, you can just take this top one and just move it out a little bit so it looks like it's expanding all around it. And really, this is just kind of a bunch of tweaks going on here. But if we go back here to where my camera was, it actually ends up looking pretty good once you kind of scroll through the animation. Nice. And I got this water animated too, so that's kind of a little bit of a helper there. So of course you can do lots of tweaks to this, but this is the main techniques that I'm using to put this together. And on Wednesday, when I post that tutorial, that's going to be how I added some particles to this just to help sell the water effect. And also those particles will be colliding with this base water here, which is going to be using a dynamic paint simulation, which will really sell the effect like it's pounding into the water and causing a bunch of ripples. So if you found this helpful and you'd like to be notified when that next tutorial comes out, there's a link in the description that says free hydraulic kit bash elements, and what this will do when you click it will actually add you to my email list. I'll make sure the first thing I send you when you sign up is a pack of hydraulic kit bash elements for Blender, and these will just kind of give you a little bit of a jump start when you're working on mechanical projects. And the other thing that you should be aware of is that I always send out an email whenever I upload a tutorial, and that'll just notify people on that list that it is in fact out. So that's pretty much it. I hope you have an excellent day. Cheers!